lot of great speakers in there that we spoke with and heard from. What were your what surprised you the most, especially from the publishers that you spoke with there in terms of where they are and where they're going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that much surprises me, but I think that we are in an era of a tremendous amount of data. And when we start talking about utilizing publisher data matched with buyer first-party data, it gets very confusing. And it's not surprising to me that then the human element becomes utterly important again, which is so funny in such a technical world, but it really is true. And I think what we heard a lot in there is that from a publisher perspective, with the advent of things like header bidding that allows a publisher to offer buyers very targeted niche segments, which is clearly important to a political buyer. Exactly what are they looking for? Because we can pretty much do anything these days. So I think that what is not surprising but also clearly important is that with this great power comes great responsibility to be better in sync with one another and one another's needs to provide the inventory packages that will drive the maximum ROI and ad effectiveness on the buyer side.
Have you seen, on that buy side, have you seen the move in the political category in stride with broader verticals in private marketplace adoption and header bidding adoption, or they've lagged or they've been ahead? Where have you kind of seen that in parallel with other categories?
I think it's probably a little bit more nascent from what we see. I think we heard from the publishers in there that the uptick, particularly this year, isn't quite what they expected that it might be. So I think that there's probably a bit of a lag there, but that said, it's all about education. That's why we're here today. What do we have available to those buyers and how do they access it, I think is really what this comes down to, and that came across loud and clear. I think also not only what do we have, but how do you get it? How do you actually win the eyeballs that you're looking for? And one of those key topics comes down for political buyers to they're not the only ones competing for those eyeballs, and there are some premium brands who are more entrenched in the programmatic space who understand that programmatic isn't a race to the bottom for remnant inventory anymore, that placements like header bidding allow for impression level competition with direct sold campaigns. So if you want those valuable eyeballs and you want to take those eyeballs away from big brands, then you got to pay for it. And I think that that's also part of the education here, is that we need to help political buyers who are a little bit newer to this understand exactly how to acquire the audience that they're looking for.
Do you feel like OpenX has similar to its competitors an opportunity to educate earlier, because maybe there aren't as many folks experienced with some of the, let's call it 1.0 programmatic challenges around fraud that other SSPs maybe have had a little bit more and higher levels at, and where you can kind of just move forward and not have to drag everyone through the last 6-7 years of where we've come from and just say, no, this is kind of the new starting line, and you can basically do all these fantastic things, and you don't have to worry about some of the challenges that other categories had?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what this really comes down to is that, although OpenX is a publisher-facing entity, all of the things that we build into our technology and the focal points that we drive so hard on are equally beneficial to the buyers. And by that, I kind of really mean our staunch focus on quality and the importance of a scaled real-time bidding marketplace. When it comes to quality, of course, it's not just a pat on the back that we're consistently ranked #1 in traffic quality on Pixelate's Trust Index, but that actually ends up being incredibly important both to the buy side and the sell side. And by that, I really mean that for the inventory owners who are monetizing inventory, a lot of what comes through in a bid request is above the fold, below the fold, domain level data, and doesn't really take into account a lot of those trust metrics like viewability scores and bot traffic and all of that stuff that really drives higher engagement and better ROI for the buyers. So what we see from a quality perspective is that buyers through an exchange like OpenX, who's really focused on curating a quality exchange, they're spending, you know, those brand dollars, those high CPMs, to garner the views that they're looking for on high quality inventory, both in its kind of attributes of how those sites are designed, but also acknowledging that it isn't just about an eyeball anywhere. It's about an eyeball on a piece of content that's really relevant and perhaps just the right environment for that ad creative itself that really matters. It's a hybrid of audience and content that really drives ROI for buyers. And the other component there being scale is obviously key, whereas I think more traditional, what we would call kind of SSP 1.0, are more kind of, were created to do network mediation and daisy chaining, management through algorithms, which was very valuable at a time. But now that we're in an era of real-time bidding and we can actually manage on an impression level auctions, and true value of those impressions on an impression level, I think that OpenX is really poised to do that in a scalable way that others are perhaps not, having not relied on ad networks or arbitrage ever in our business. We essentially work with over 150 DSPs and agency trading desks, everyone plugged in a way that for a political buyer or anyone allows them to target very niche audiences at scale.